All right, taping this part of the podcast. It is 4:00 East Coast time. My dad is here. We did not talk after yesterday's game. It's very rare when we don't even talk or text after a game. And I finally texted you about it 90 minutes after, and we just swore at each other a couple times about how bad the Celtics were. You went to both games. You were there. You were in your seat. You've been going for 52 years. We were, I think, -800 or 900 favorites to win the series. And they took huge leads in both games and blew the games. And yet game two felt way worse than game one. What was it like sitting there and watching the season unravel?
I agree. Game two was much worse than game one. You know, ironically, though, like you said, we had 20-point leads in the third quarter of both games. And in game one, I think the crowd was so confident. And you just could feel the confidence in the crowd. We're not going to lose the 20-point lead. And of course, we lost that lead. Game two, it was a very nervous crowd. And you've been at games like that where you walk in the Garden, people are late getting to their seats. Nobody's talking very much. You're looking up to see if Porzingis is playing. He's not in the starting lineup. Somebody says, no, he's not playing. He finally comes out. He looks like he's death run over. He just looked terrible. He had no color in his skin.
Super skinny.
Well, he's always skinny, but his coloring was off. And he just looked like he's dealing with an illness, and he had no strength. He just had no strength. Okay. Putting that aside, somehow we're up by 20 in the third quarter, right? Now, the Knicks, I thought, played a terrible first half. Or they had really bad luck. They had a lot of shots that rimmed out, in and out. And meanwhile, halftime comes. I look up at the scoreboard. Jayson Tatum, first team All-NBA, has 2 points. What the hell? He has 2 points. I didn't even notice him in the game. It's like he was the one who was out, not Porzingis. All right, we come back. We get the big lead. And I think it was third quarter, we made a run. Knicks are still not shooting well. I think the coach took Brunson out because he didn't have it for a while.
Yeah.
But go to the fourth quarter. Suddenly we're up by 16. And I look up at the clock. There's 8 minutes to go. And I remember this vividly. Tatum steals the ball. He comes running down the court with Brown, 2-on-1. We're going to go up by 18, right?
Yeah.
Throws it to Brown. Brown, of course, fumbles the ball and it goes out of bounds. And that was the game to me. I'm watching Jayson Tatum with 2 points to the halftime, shooting 3 after 3 once again in the fourth quarter. And I'm watching Jaylen Brown turnover after turnover. We've missed 13 straight shots in that fourth quarter. And our defense sunk. It's like the air went out of the balloon. We kept missing shots. The Knicks would come down and they took very good shots.
Yeah.
You know, we were taking terrible shots. And you've been to this kind of game where Brown and Tatum, 8 minutes to go, they start dribbling the ball at the perimeter.
Yeah, it's the playing with your food offense.
Yes, it's the isolation. Yes. You look up at the clock, because I kept looking up at the clock. 5 or 6 seconds left. One of them makes a move. Too late. Another missed shot. 13 straight missed shots. The Knicks come down. They're moving the ball really fast. Their pace was excellent. The ball's going around. They get the open guy. They make not a three because their three-point shooting was iffy, but they get good shots near the rim. It was just, the second game was much more frustrating than the first game because it was such a must-need game. We couldn't afford to lose last night.
I think the craziest part of it is the Knicks had, I think, their worst offensive game just by offensive rating of the entire season. Yeah. They played pretty well, especially Brunson was really good down the stretch of game one and thought they really took the game. The one last night was just all self-inflicted wounds, some very strange coaching, which I'm excited to talk about.
Well, I want to talk about the coaching.
Did you demote? Is Joe second row Joe again?
You know, I don't get it. He got greatly outcoached. And I'm not a Tibbs fan either.
Yeah.
I think he runs his, although he used his bench pretty well in games 1 and 2. But I don't know. Are we going to coaching?
No, we'll go backwards because.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple things, couple big pictures thing here. First of all, I can't remember a Celtics playoff thing like this. I was trying to think of a series where I just think they have clearly a better team, and history would show, because no team has ever blown 20-point leads, I don't think, in the same playoffs, much less back-to-back in the same playoff games. It felt like they were getting all the shots they wanted, and they just missed open shots. There was that screenshot somebody had that was going around social media of Tatum in the corner with like 3:40 left. Brown's under the basket, and Brunson's fell down. He's on the ground.
Right.
And Tatum just has a wide open 25-footer. He could have also just passed it to Brown, and it was a brick, but it was turning in. I don't know what it felt like being in the building. It felt like every time we took a three, I didn't think it was going in.
I did not think it was going in, but also you gave a great example of that total fourth quarter. We never made the extra pass.
Right. Which is when this team gets into trouble.
Each guy wanted to make the hero shot and make the lead larger, because I think we had a 12-point lead starting on that fourth.
It was 73-53 at one point. Then it was 16 points in the fourth quarter, and the Knicks weren't playing well.
Right.
And just there's some strategy stuff I want to talk about later. But fundamentally, these two Tatum games were just atrocious. And it's weird because, then all this stuff starts up again today about he's not actually a superstar, and the national media can come in that isn't watching the whole season. They're not there week after week watching what we saw. I really bought in. I thought he went up a level. We talked about it a bunch. Like, there was a level of dissection and kind of artistry to what he was doing the last 4 months of the season in the Orlando game, where I really felt like he was solving equations on the fly. He was making the right plays. He could be point forward. He could score. He had just figured out the balance. And I really believed he had figured it out. And then the guy that we watched, especially in game 2, was the guy from the 2020 playoffs and the 2022 later in the playoffs. Like, it was like he reverted. And you said you thought it was the worst game you'd seen him play in person in a couple years, right?
Yeah, a little bit worse probably than game 1. Both games were horrendous Tatum games. You remember it was the last basket we made. We went up by 1 point, and Tatum went straight down the middle, went to the basket. Okay, that middle was open all game long,
and in game 1,
he just wouldn't do it. He's stubborn. I understand that. The coach is more stubborn, which is a real problem. But, even that 3-point shot, which he was wide open in the corner, I saw Brown underneath, wide open.
Yeah.
Take the 2. We needed points. We didn't need a 3. We needed points.
But what's been weird about it is the whole year he was getting so good. And I felt like it was getting better in real time over the course of the season, of him being like, if I can switch and get this guy on me, I'm going to go right by him and get to the basket, or I'm going to get to the paint, or I'm going to find, he started to develop that little shot around the foul line, right? That little 14-footer. And he was just really putting it together. And then this turned into all the old Tatum habits came back. And I don't know, whether you think it was pressure? Like, what was going on? Did the guys look nervous? What was happening?
I wish I knew the answer. That first half, again, I never noticed Tatum.
He was getting rebounds at least. He was playing defensive rebounds.
He was getting rebounds.
Yeah.
I should give him that credit.
You're talking about offensively. You never noticed him involved.
No, I mean, he was getting defensive rebounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Offensively, he wasn't in the picture.
Yeah.
And they go to this stretch in the second quarter, which blows my mind. They take Tatum out and they put Jaylen Brown in charge.
Yeah, you call it the Jaylen Brown in charge minutes.
Every dribbling out at the 3-point line, 5 seconds left, he makes his move.
Yeah, in the shot clock.
Or more often than not, it dribbles off his knee and goes out of bounds. But he had a terrible game. I don't know how many turnovers he had. And if
it was weird. It started to seem like he was going to have a good game because he was kind of punishing. He was trying to take Hart down low early.
Yeah, he was.
And then by the end of the game, I think his stats ended up being awful. They were.
But That's one of my main complaints.
8 for 23.
They play a completely different game in the first three quarters
Yeah.
than in the fourth quarter. And this is very consistent. First three quarters, the ball is moving somewhat. Brown is going at least trying to go to the hoop. They're passing the ball a little bit. We had more assists than the Knicks in the first three quarters. The fourth quarter, it's isolation. It's just like what we saw 2 years ago against Miami, or 3 years ago against Golden State. It's like they forget. And I keep coming back to the coach. You have a coach. The coach.
Oh, wait, hold off on the coach.
Okay, it's hard. It's hard to hold off.
Last year when the opponents were a little easier based on injury luck where the league was.
Yeah.
There were still some nut crunch games when you never felt totally comfortable offensively. And it was still a lot of this your turn, my turn.
Yeah.
Things would get a little stagnant. The difference was Jaylen, I thought there were a couple games when he just athletically really seemed like he could get to the spots he wanted. He was really in complete command. And they had the Porzingis piece too, where they didn't have him in the entire Dallas series, but
right.
It was this extra 18 to 20 bonus points you were getting. But when I think back to last year, there was that Indiana game that you went to that Brown hit the three in the corner to send it to OT. That felt a little like these Knicks games where it was like, we're getting stagnant again. And then we lucked out, got in overtime. And then the other one was the one I went to in Dallas, game 3, when Luka fouled out with 5 minutes left. And all of a sudden it was sitting there for, Kyrie's going to really kill us and bring this series back. This is where the last 7 years have been leading to Kyrie bringing Dallas back and 2-1, and we're going to fall in all the bad habits. But then they actually held this Dallas off and won that game. And Brown had a couple of big plays, and it was like, finally got over the hump. And now it feels like we're back in the other side of the hump again with this team. And that's the part I don't understand. We should be getting better, not worse.
Walking out of the stadium last night was worse than Monday night because at least Monday night we knew we had a game Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And we could tie the series. But there were so many people walking down the stairs. Well, two things. So many people walking down the stairs saying Tatum didn't show up.
Yeah,
he got rebounds, but he never was in the offense. He never took charge. Or when he had the ball, all he wanted to do was dribble on the perimeter. Isolation, dribble on the perimeter.
He had five assists, 5 field goals. So he created 20 points. And this is a guy who, when he's really humming, he's at like 28 points,
right.
8 assists, 14 rebounds, and he's just kind of involved all over the game. And he was.
When you were watching the game on TV, was it obvious to you that he only had, not the number, but that it's possibly only had 2 points at halftime?
I actually liked how he was rebounding and kind of fighting. And it felt like they were trying to establish Jaylen. Then Porzingis came in. It's like, we got to try to get him going a little bit. Pritchard took a bunch of shots. And I thought maybe he was biding his time. And that was the wrong instinct.
Does first team all NBA guy bide his time in a must-win game?
It's a tough one for... I think a lot of the Celtic fans were really defensive about him this year because we were watching game to game how good he was.
Yeah, he had a great season.
And then the casual fans come in, or the people that aren't watching all the time, and they see this version of it, and they're like, that's why he got benched in the Olympics. This is why he's not a superstar. This is why he's not at the same level. But then you watch like Jokic in game 1 against OKC put up the 42, 22, and 6.
Right.
You watch Shea respond in a game 2. He's got 34 points in 3 quarters. And it's like, that's the level, that's the swimming pool you're supposed to be in, buddy.
It's a good point. When I came home, I watched the first half of the OKC game because I couldn't go to sleep. And I'm thinking, Shea showed up because he knew this was a must game. And he's an all NBA kind of guy.
Yeah.
Our guy didn't, at least offensively.
Well, it's tougher when they keep showing the 2 you didn't see because you were at the game, but they're 2 commercials they just keep showing at Tatum. And then meanwhile he's stinky in the game. I mean, there's some other issues. The Robinson, the plus minus numbers with him have been really good when he's out there. I still don't understand why Tatum's not just getting him in a switch and then torturing him every time.
I don't understand.
He's been effective. And then McBride has been mean, he only had 5 points yesterday, but at least when they know they can put him out there and he's not going to be bad. So they have 7 guys. And as we know, you need 7 guys in a playoff series to be able to win, and they have 7 at least.
Yeah, McBride had a good game 1.
He's okay.
He wasn't very noticeable last night.
But he's at least a body that they know they can throw out. And they're playing all these other guys, pretty big minutes. And then Hart is the kind of guy that has always hurt the Celtics, this version of the Celtics.
Hart really hurt us. Hart consistently seemed to be on the weak side getting the rebound.
Yeah, he's around the ball. This isn't, especially without Porzingis, it's kind of a group rebounding Celtics team. And Tatum's the best rebounder in the team by far at this point. But the Porzingis thing's a huge piece because it has that staggered effect of it's not just bad that they're not getting the points and the extra minutes from him, but then it's pushing more minutes on Horford, who you tell me what he looked like in person. It looked like he was luggage last night.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good game for sure. He had a good series against Orlando. But game 1 and game 2 last night, he looked tired and he looked his age.
And they're putting a big burden on him twice in 3 days.
They did. And, I think guarding Towns, he gives up so much height to Towns. Yeah. Towns really just shoots over him. And I think it influences his offense. His 3-point shot was off, obviously.
0 for 5. And I think all of them were wide open. Tatum was 1 for 5.
I would have liked to have seen Pritchard more.
So that's the coaching stuff. That was one of the things, because I noticed this in game 1. You could talk me into the 3 guards with Tatum and Brown versus relying on Horford as much and making Tatum almost like the undersized center and trying to attack the Knicks that way, because then it becomes, when they're trying to get a switch on Brunson, they're just trying to get Horford on Brunson every time. You Pritchard out there, they're probably going to settle on Pritchard guarding Brunson, but I just like that matchup more. And then he gives them spacing on the other side that's just better than Horford. And I don't feel like they're losing. How many rebounds did Horford have yesterday? 4. You're not like losing. You're losing a little rim protection. That's it.
Yeah. Well, especially in the fourth quarter last night, we missed 13 straight shots. Some of them were Horford shots. There was no Pritchard. Now, Pritchard had a couple of shots in the first half. They rimmed out. But I would have liked to have seen him in there.
And no Hauser either, who sometimes will have the 2 threes in the second quarter.
Yeah, Hauser's injured, so we knew he wasn't going to play. But this fourth quarter, over and over, when Tatum and Brown have the psyche to take over and play hero basketball, they ignore Pritchard.
Yeah.
I mean, Pritchard can be wide open, and they're going to do their own thing, trying to get their shot off. In the first half, they'll pass it around, and Pritchard will get more wide open shots.
Well, before we blame Mazzulla, do you take any blame for bringing your brother Don to this game? Because I can't say he's great luck over the years. I thought it was a bold move. I don't know what the other choices were, but Don gets super tense during these games.
Well,
and I can't even imagine what he was like yesterday during this.
At the 8-minute mark, it was probably almost 9 minutes, I said to Don, we're up 16. It looks pretty good, but this is around the point Monday night.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we're in good shape.
Oh, no, he's confident. Well, I was watching with your favorite granddaughter. And when we're up 73-53 and she's like, well, they bounced back. And I'm like, just wait. I don't trust anything that's happening right now. Let's just wait. I don't feel good until...
Even the crowd didn't trust the lead, by the way. We've been to so many games where, game 1, the crowd was so loud and confident. Last night, we had the 20-point lead. Then it was a 16-point lead with almost 9 minutes to go. Nobody was confident.
Yeah, and they're acting like they're 4.
Yeah.
I was trying to think before we talk about Mazzulla. I can't remember another Celtics playoff team since you had the tickets that I felt like was clearly better than the team they're losing to.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as like sour grapes. Look, the Knicks, like we've seen this happens in football all the time. Like part of playing the games is this is why you play the games, and somebody's got to win, and you can overachieve or you can just band together. And the Knicks made all the plays down the stretch and they deserved the 2 games. But this is also the worst the Celtics can play. And I don't remember I remember in 1973, Havlicek hurt his shoulder and the series got blamed on that. 1982, Tiny hurt his shoulder and they lost to Philly and series got blamed on that. Even if you go back to 2018 when they lost the game 7 to LeBron that we went to and that nobody could make a shot, right? And then you leave the thing and you're like, man, we couldn't make a shot. But they still had LeBron. They still had the best guy in the game. It was still amazing that the Celtics were in a game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. That Miami game we went to in 23, the game 7 when they came back after the White Miracle shot and then Tatum hurt his ankle a minute in and the game flipped. Miami still kicked their ass and Butler was still really good and Tatum was hurt. There were reasons for it. I can't come up with reasons for this. I can't come up for this team that was built as this offensive machine that wins 75 to 80% of its games, just shitting the bed like this 2 games in a row. I've never seen anything like it.
I know some people are saying the Porzingis illness is really hurting us. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
It hurt us in the fourth quarter because we couldn't go to him. They had to take him out. You could see he was struggling. But it left us with Horford and Cornette.
Cornette was out there with 4 minutes left. He never plays that late.
No. And,
What?
Our defense in the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter was terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
We couldn't stop anybody.
Couldn't stop Mikal Bridges, who I don't think took 3 shots in the first 3.5 quarters of the game. Well, and then all of a sudden they're running plays for him.
I think he missed his first 7 or 8 shots.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's their go-to guy. And we can't
6 for 18 to finish the game. And I think he made 3 in a row down the stretch.
Yeah. Brunson is scary. I have to say, he's really scary. When he has the ball, I'm assuming he's going to score.
He abused Holiday on that last play, the go-ahead basket, because you knew it was going to him. And usually I'm going to trust Drew more than anybody in the league on that play, and he used him.
Obviously, I didn't see a replay. Did he? Was it a foul? I couldn't see it.
Yeah, it was a foul.
Okay.
He kind of overcommitted to the move, and then he grabbed him as he went behind. But
that leads me into something else. Okay, it was a foul, but a little bit earlier, twice in a row, Coach Joe fouls their center.
Can't explain that one. Can't explain it.
I mean, I know he's a terrible free throw shooter, but
they weren't in the bonus yet.
We weren't in the bonus. We had 2 fouls.
Yeah, and then you get to the final 2 minutes, and you get 1 foul, and then the second foul, and you're good to go.
Yeah, but this wasn't the final 2 minutes.
I know.
Yeah.
No, trust me, it made zero sense. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was happening, and we're just putting fouls on random Celtics for no reason. Especially if you think OT. I'm looking at I guess we had some fouls to give. Nobody was in major foul trouble.
But, we had 2 fouls. We looked pretty good. It wasn't in the 2-minute period of time.
3 minutes left. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it made a difference.
I didn't get it. And then they run the play to Tatum to go up 1. Good play. Knicks score. And then he doesn't call timeout and runs the exact same play.
Yeah.
Which the Knicks are like, oh, you're going to run this play again. We're going to do this time. And the spacing on that last play, somebody screenshotted it to me. It's one of the worst plays in the history of the Celtics franchise.
You sent it to me. I saw
it. Yeah, I sent it to you. Tatum goes left. He takes 3 guys with him. There's 4 other teammates on the court. 3 are on the baseline and 1 is standing near him in the paint. So there's 2 Knicks that just have to guard 4 guys, and then 3 guys can jump on him. They have nobody come to the top of the key. White is just hanging on the baseline, but he's not cutting. And Tatum could have found him underneath the basket. And everybody's just kind of standing there. I don't even know what they're watching. And maybe that's why you don't take the timeout. And sometimes don't call it timeout. Just go. You got the momentum of the thing. But coming off a free throw, I don't know. I'd much rather call a timeout. Save the 3 seconds, bringing the ball up. They ended up taking the timeout in the locker room.
You have to take the timeout. You get the ball at half court. You've saved, as you said, at least 3 seconds. But, you mentioned how White wasn't cutting. Why would he cut? You knew Tatum wasn't going to give the ball up.
Right.
He won't give the ball up at that moment. It's like his Achilles heel over and over and over at the end of the fourth quarter. He won't give the ball up. And there are guys open, obviously. I saw the same thing you saw. And I would add Pritchard out there.
I would have too. I would have called timeout. I would have done a final play with the 3 guards, Tatum and Brown, had better spacing and really tried. Your whole season is on the line. You're down
Your
one.
whole season's on the line. In all of the great practices they have at the Allbeck Arena, don't they have that one play where we call a timeout, we need 2 points, we have a play they haven't seen before, and let's use it right now.
Well, there's one of the plays they run from time to time that I always really like is when they pin Tatum on the foul line. Yeah. And they almost like lob the ball into him. And then basically he has this foul line post up that he can either spin, try to go to the basket, get fouled. And he's a good free throw shooter.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd much rather and then you have the right spacing around him. It's really tough for a second guy to jump over. And then if a second guy comes over, now he can kick it out to somebody.
But, after watching Missoula for 3 years, did you expect him to call a timeout?
No, I think the best quality that he has is also the worst quality. Like he likes the test. He likes seeing.
It wasn't the game for the test.
No, but I'm saying, but you know what I mean. He likes when his team is challenged. Like I'm sure he was watching the game yesterday. Like this is great. This is going to make us better down the road. That somebody's throwing haymakers at us like this. I know, but now they're down 0-2 in the series, and now you're playing. Yeah, also, it's a Saturday afternoon game. It's at 3:30 ET. It's just a weird time.
That's fine in February, Joe.
Yeah.
When you want to have the test, but call the timeout, set up that special play that you haven't used, and pin Tatum at the foul line area.
Well, also protect the lead. This is something I talked on Sunday's pod with Brasillo about Game 7, Golden State, Houston. Every time Houston started to crawl back, Kerr called a timeout. And he just controlled. He was just like, you guys can crawl back, but I'm not giving you the momentum of like an 8-0 run, a 9-0 run. It's never happening. Every time I feel like anything's happening, I'm cutting it off. And the Celtics, it's way more. I hate to use this word because in the wrong context, it's a little insulting, but there's been an arrogance to the Celtics team that comes out at the worst possible times where it's like, this is who we are. We shoot threes. We don't need a timeout. We can just get Tatum going to the basket. We're just going to play Horford because this is what we do down the stretch. And I really think Pritchard should have been out there for at least one of those games over Horford.
I agree with you. There is an arrogance. If you listen to Missoula's press conferences after the game, after a loss, he'll point out the positives. He uses the word margins all the time. The margins here. We won 3 of the 4 quarters. Belichick used to do the same thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You lost
trust the
game.
process.
Yeah.
Got to keep going. Got to be on to game 3.
Yeah. We in the 2 games. I know you know this. It's unfathomable to me. We shot 100 3-point shots in 2 games.
I know.
60 in game 1 and 40 in game 2. We made 25 of them. That's not a recipe for success. And
I thought the biggest sin of either game was the last 2 minutes of game 1 when especially Tatum was just jacking up threes over trying to get to the basket, just trying to get in the paint, including that one he took with like a minute left.
Yeah.
That was just awful as he was taking it. And he had Mitchell Robinson on him, and he can just go by that dude every time. And we've watched him. What was the regular season for? This is what he learned during the regular season is just go by those big guys. You're going to be able to get by them, finish at the rim. He's also blowing layups too.
Yeah, we
missed a bunch of layups yesterday and a bunch of layups in game 1.
Derek White missed that.
So that's the question, because like FanDuel has the Celtics still favored in the series, right? And the question is, are they really going to shoot that badly a couple more times? I feel like the Knicks are going to have at least one game out of these next 5 where they're awesome. And Towns goes 7 for 10 from 3, or Brunson has 45 points. The Knicks have a good game in them that they're going to win. So at the very least, you're looking at a 7-gamer. They have to win one of the next 3, the Celtics, or they go home. And then you got to win 3 in a row, basically.
The one thing I'm hoping for, I guess, we've been a very good road team this year. We've been
I would say better at road than the home.
Oh, much better road team than home team, which makes no sense because last year in the championship year, we were a great home team.
Yeah.
We fiddled and diddled
until the playoffs.
To use that term. We played around too much this year at home. And the lineups have been kind of weird at times. I just thought we'd pull it together the first 2. I really was confident that this was such a must-win game. There was no way we would let the Knicks go up 2-0.
Well, so there's a couple other things in stake, big picture, that we just have to acknowledge. The Knicks, New York, the Celtics have won all these titles. The Knicks haven't won one in 52 years. The Knicks have the last kind of great playoff moment they had against the Celtics was that 1990 game that you and I went to when Bird missed the dunk and Ewing hit the 3 in the corner.
Yeah.
They had some good ones in the early 70s. They won a couple series. The 84 Bernard versus Larry, the Celtics win that one in game 7. But then there's a lot of Knicks fans are also Yankee fans. And there's really since the 04, the comeback. And now it feels like the Knicks knocked the Celtics out of nowhere where they're doing 4 or 5. And now all of a sudden the Knicks fans and the New York fans, and we know a lot of them, all of a sudden get their swagger back. I'm dreading that more than anything, even though I like the Knicks fans.
I'll tell you a quick story from last night's game. One really annoying, I know the Celtics draw really well on the road.
Yeah.
And it's probably annoying to those teams in Dallas or wherever.
Yeah.
Okay. It was really annoying last night to see how many Knicks fans were there at the game. It's obvious that after game 1, a lot of season ticket holders sold their seats for game 2 because you had the blue and the orange, the terrible, those colors that you notice all over the arena. And then walking out in the stairs, there were Knicks fans chanting. And there was a pretty huge Celtic fan who went up to one of them and said, "You say one more word and you're going down the stairs." And that was the end of it.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah. So the Knicks guy kind of ran quickly down the stairs. And he get out of there. I mean, the Celtic fans were really upset.
Yeah.
And there were too many Knicks fans chanting. It was terrible. And then
sounds
the fire
like a fun
alarm,
walk home.
No, and then the fire alarm went off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was bizarre. The whole ending of the game was bizarre.
When you left, did you think you were going to see the Celtics team again?
Yeah, I thought I'd see them game 5, possibly down 3-1. Yep. I knew my son wouldn't be there. But I cannot believe we won't take one of 2 games in New York, but I don't know.
The early start on Saturday, I don't know if that's good or bad. The crowd's going to be great, but the good thing for the Celtics is there's going to be a lot of money in that arena, and there might be a lot of won't be quite as raucous of a crowd as normal.
Is there a specific referee we would like for Saturday afternoon?
Not Mark Davis. Give me your top 3 referees you don't want to see.
I don't know.
Your guy Foster's back.
Yeah, we haven't.
He was
seen
injured
him
for 2 months.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see him because he's good with your road team on the line.
Yeah, he's good when you're down in the series. Hey, Scott Foster. Great to see you.
Foster on.
So if they blow this series, do you feel like this then gets tied into last year and people start the whole thing of, well, the only reason you won last year was because everyone was hurt and you got lucky? And then the league got better this year and you didn't show up. I do feel like it opens, I don't personally believe them, but it opens these storylines. Tatum, see, this is why he got benched. And all this bad shit comes out of this.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you can have they won last year despite the coach. The coach lets them shoot 100 3-point shots in 2 games when they're not making the shots. Doesn't make adjustments at all during the game.
They have no plan B. They don't get creative at all.
Doesn't call a timeout and say, "Hey guys, we're just not shooting well. Could we go to the basket?"
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask? Or you brought up a critical point before. When the other team is making a run, call a timeout. Stop the momentum. We don't do that. And then not taking the timeout last night. I understand his philosophy. We're in the moment, maybe. Except it was a made.
It's coming off of free throws, though. You call timeout at that point.
Yeah, you do. It wasn't like the Knicks missed a shot and we had the momentum going down.
You know what you definitely don't do is don't call a timeout and then run the exact same play. Even Tibbs in the press conference after is like, yeah, we figured they were probably going to try to run that play again. It's like, yeah, I bet you did. Do you blame the new owner, Bill Chisholm?
No, but how did they call it? They didn't call a timeout. So how come we ran the exact same play? Who told Tatum to do that again?
I don't know. Well, and if you're going to run the same play, you have to have somebody's got to pop up to the top in case he gets trapped or doubled.
We didn't run the same. Maybe he thought he was going to run the same play, but the middle got clogged and he ended up in the left, almost out of bounds area. I couldn't even see him. He was so far out on the left.
Do you have the proper animosity for the Knicks after watching them 2 games, or is it like a likable opponent?
No, it's a likable. I mean, I have no animosity. They've played clean. I admire.
You didn't know that Orlando was rubbing your last nerve there.
Yeah,
after a couple of games,
they played dirty, but I don't think the Knicks played dirty. I will say that I didn't realize how good Hart is.
Yeah,
he's made such a difference for them. He keeps the momentum going. He gets that rebound they have to have. He makes a key shot in the corner. So he's impressed me. Brunson has always impressed me. That guy is. I can't believe Dallas gave up on that guy or didn't re-sign him. Towns pisses me off because he's got body language I hate.
Yeah,
and we. Without Porzingis, we're having trouble. When they have the 2 bigs in, they have their 2 bigs in, and we have Cornette and Horford in. It doesn't quite match up well.
Yeah, but that's where you need Tatum to basically point center it a little bit.
And Tatum got, he's getting defensive rebounds, but it's not helping us scoring at all.
Well, we'll see. This is certainly this Tatum era.
Are you confident? Do you think we're to come back to 2?
This is the first time I honestly don't know what to think, because they took all the shots they normally took and none of them went in. And they just shit the bed 2 games in a row in the last 4 minutes. And each of them just might have been these separate flukes that exist next to each other, or something's wrong. And the only thing that makes me nervous is the Porzingis thing's a real thing. Because there's just it's a domino effect of not just that, but the extra Horford minutes. Then you don't have Hauser. So the rotation all of a sudden got thinner. And now when the rotation's that thin, if Tatum's going to suck in a game, now it feels like 3 times worse because not a lot of backup options. I thought Drew and White played like they were playing pretty hard in that game. It's not. I don't expect a ton more from those guys. And I think Jalen's 85%. You watched him all year. He's not as explosive as he was in November.
He's maybe not, but
90%. I don't
think that's what hurt him last night. It's the consistent issue he has with bad hands.
Yeah.
When they blew that 2-on-1 layup, and they clapped each other,
Yeah.
You can't do that in a critical game too.
All right. So you're confident, or you think it's over?
I don't think it's over because I think we're a really good road team. It will not shock me if we take both games in New York. But I'd hate to see us lose Saturday, and then we're in the same boat we were 2 years ago against Miami.
Miami thing, yeah.
And to come back and win 4 straight, no one's ever done it, right? In basketball. I just can't believe we got here. I can't believe we're here.
It's funny though, I wasn't even that mad last night. I was, because, they won last year, so you got to factor that in. It's like, all right, keep it in perspective. We did win the title last year. But I was more confused. I was just like, I just spent 6 months watching this team.
Right.
What is happening? It was one of those. It was like if you're just watching TV with your wife and then all of a sudden she starts speaking another language and you're like, what's going on? That was how I felt for both games. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, that I understand that, and I felt somewhat the same way. But consistently, the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, we don't play the same way
You're right.
as the first 40 minutes or whatever.
All right.
And I don't understand why. And the only person I can point my finger at is the coach. Coach, these are players. They need some direction. If they're shooting too many threes or not going to the basket, make them go to the basket.
Sounds like you're going to demote him to second row again.
No. I need
Dad,
to be careful. I need to be careful here.
Dad, I'm going to see you for Game 7, Monday night, May 19th.
I'll be here.
Save my seat. Good to see you. All right, I'll talk to you this weekend. Bye.